Hey, Jaimie here. Over the last couple of weeks, I've been doing some interviews with some SwimBETTER users and sort of drawing out from them how they use the system, what they look for, how they find it, a whole bunch of stuff. And we're going to be pushing these out in our YouTube channel and probably popping some stuff out on social media channels as well. And invariably during those conversations, I've shown some of my data to the guys, and mostly they've sort of said to me, gee, Jaimie, you should be interviewing yourself so that you can talk about what you've been able to do using the SwimBETTER system. So I thought I might do a bit of a recording today that kills two birds with one stone. First of all, it goes through my data and shows how I've been able to improve and what basis I've been able to do that on. And secondly, take a good walk through the dashboard and show you how effective the dashboard is and show you how flexible it is and show you the best way to use it, because frankly, this is a great way to set up how you use the system so that you can continually track back to where you started. So, first thing I want to do here is, this is our dashboard. I'll just walk through a couple of things. These are filters that I've set for my swims. And the way I use the system is I've got once a week I try and do an 800 metre swim, and that becomes my time trial. And that's the distance that I constantly revert back to and refer to when I'm looking at how I'm progressing. But you can see I've also got some 50 metres, some 200s and some 100s, because during the week when I'm practicing, then I do a series of those. But on Saturdays, that's my time trial day, and that's when I do my 800. And you'll see that each of them are prefaced with the number 50 because they're all in a 50 metre pool. And to be able to do that, it's literally just a question of clicking on this plus sign. You can set your style, whether you're doing free, butterfly or backstroke. The pool length, as you can see, we've got 25 and 50 metres, or also 25 yards. And then you've got the standard swim lengths for each of those pool distances. So here are the metres ones, and if I click on the yards, you'll see they change. So you can set your baseline, and I think that's a really important thing to do when you start, because you want to track and you want to monitor how you've progressed based on where you started. So I urge people to do that, and whether you're a 50 metre sprinter or whether you're a 1500 metre distance swimmer or sort of triathlete using a Olympic distance, you should set that, and you should record your first file. Not immediately when you do it, but you should set that up so that becomes your baseline. And then you can filter them any other way. So the next thing here is our date range, and as you can see, you can click on today's, last 7 days, 90 days, what have you. So for the purposes of this, I'm going to go into the custom date range because my swims started in December 2022, so it's been 13 months. And so now I've selected that. You'll see over that period I've got 1,235 swims. Now these aren't days of swims, these are files. So some days, I said on Saturday I'll do an 800 metres, one file. Other days I might do 20 lots of 50, so I've got 20 files from those days. But if I go into my 800 metres filter here, you'll see we've now got 30 of 31s. So you can uncheck any swim that you don't want to be included in your data tracking. So for example, you might have worn fins, or you might have had something go wrong with it and you just don't want to even do that. So instead of deleting it, which you can do, you can delete that file, but you can also uncheck it. And if you uncheck it, it won't appear in your data tracking. So when we look at this and we go into our metrics here, we can blow this up and we could have a look at the first metric, which is force per stroke. So this is how I've evolved with the amount of force that I'm pushing through on average for each stroke. And you can see here, if I go back to the 21st of December back in 2022, you can see I was pushing on average 2.3 force per stroke. And you can see how that has climbed over that 13-month period to here. I topped out at over 3.1. Last weekend I was pretty slack at 2.76, but 2.9, getting close to 3. So you can see as I've been swimming more, I've been generating more strength in my shoulders and my lats and my biceps, my chest, which has helped me increase my power. Then we can move on to stroke rate. And one of my objectives has been to try and have my stroke rate coming down over time. So I want to get better, I want to get faster, I want all my metrics to improve, and one of those indicators is a reducing stroke rate. And you can see here I topped out up here at 29, which for me is like ridiculously high. And last weekend, 23, before that 26. But you can see that trend line not dramatically dropping off, but it's come down over time, which is what I'm looking for. Distance per stroke, this is a key metric. Obviously, it's how far I move through the water for every stroke that I take. And you can see early days, 1.46. Last weekend, 2.14. Again, this is a significant improvement in my distance per stroke. Time. This, of course, is the biggie. And I started out at 24:13, right? So, as I say, I'm not a good swimmer. I'm not even a crap swimmer. I'm an uber crap swimmer. So I started out at 24:13 and my PB is 16:18. So I've taken almost 8 minutes off my 800 metre time. And you can see that trend line and how it's come down. Again, last weekend I was pretty slack. Took it easy at 17:30. Weekend before I almost killed myself. And I thought I was going to get a PB, but I was 6 seconds outside my PB. But case to us, right? Velocity, obviously you'd expect your velocity to increase as you go, but this is the really key one. And this is the one that I've worked mostly with in order to improve my swimming. And that is how much of my force have I been able to change my technique to make it propulsive? How much of my force is being pushed back towards my feet? And you can see here, early days I was sort of down around the 44, 45 mark, and now I'm tracking up over 67. So you can see that very significant increase over that 13-month period as to how I've been able to improve just by changing my technique. And that entailed reducing a lot of my downward force and bringing it into a propulsive phase. And you can do that if you're looking to go from here and go what they call going over the barrel and engage with your shoulder and your elbow and get into a position where you can then have maximum propulsion. It's remarkable how you can do that. And you can see this was the aha moment for me here, where I'd sort of done some tweaks to here, but then in this little period, and you can see I didn't swim here for 3 months and I didn't swim here for 2 months because I was traveling. But in this little period when I was back home for a sort of 5-6 weeks, I'd been able to play with it, and then that was the big change for me, was getting over that barrel and then converting that downward force into propulsive. And you can see that's just continued to rise over that last period of time. So this is a really critical metric for me. And then lastly, as our distance per stroke increases, our strokes per lap decrease. So you can see here, I was pretty lousy here at 34 strokes a lap, and now I'm sort of getting down into the 23s. So the ability to be able to track each of these metrics independently, and then you get an overall view where you can look at everything in conjunction with one another, I think is pretty remarkable, because up until now, the only thing you can track in terms of your progress is the stopwatch. Well, now you can look at all of these different metrics. And I guess probably one of the key things here is then how do I combine each of these different metrics to give me more insight. And so I'm going to do another little Loom recording which will set that out and showcase how we can look at force field in conjunction with stroke path in conjunction with, particularly with force versus time, and the insight you can gather from about what the hand is doing and what it's doing when during the stroke. And then that helps you frame in your mind, it helps you get an idea in your mind as to what you need to change, and then it's a question of how do you change it. That's not where we come in. We can help you with what you need to change, but we're not swim coaches. We're not here to coach you as to how to do that change. But frankly, a lot of it is pretty common sense. I mean, all the stuff that I've done hasn't come through a coach. It's come through me working it out myself. So this should hopefully give you a good idea. We might as well just very quickly, I'll give you a quick squiz at, let's have a look at my 200s in comparison. I do 200s more regularly. I do a lot more of those. As you can see, I've got 440 of those. And if we go back to, let's have a look at this. Let's look at the force per stroke evolution over that time. It's a bit more difficult to see because there are so many different files. You know, here, started here in the, 2.3 to 2.8 range. I'm now sitting up around the 2.98 to 3.3. So there has been a gradual increase, but this tends to be more about playing with technique than necessarily pushing too hard. My stroke rate, you can see 27 down to 23 is in stroke rate, which I'm pleased with. Again, my distance per stroke on average from 1.6 now up to 2.3. I'm very pleased with that over time. My time, anything from 5 minutes, 6 to 5:42 up there. Now my PB, 3:45. Again, it's not a good time. I'm not a good swimmer, but in comparative terms, in relative terms, it's actually pretty good for me. Velocity, again, you expect that to be going up, and then once more, my propulsion as a percentage, below 37 here, 40, up to 50 in that range, and now coming up at sort of 69. You can see how that's climbed, and strokes per lap, which inverse of distance per stroke have come down. So hopefully this sort of gives you a good idea of how to set it up and then on an ongoing basis track it, and you can track as many or as few as you like, and obviously the longer you do it, the more accurate your tracking will be. Thanks very much.